Farm, and the business was actually started back in 1991, but it wasn't started making soap. The business started raising show quality dairy goats. And show quality they are indeed. We take excellent care of our goats and focus on quality with every single thing that we do. This lady right over here in 2012 was the #2 milker in the nation and gave us 4,500 pounds of milk in 300 days, believe it or not. So what do we do with all that extra milk? We make soap. And the soap really, really works. And that's why it went from being a hobby into being a business. It kind of grew on its own, and people said, you got to sell this stuff. And a couple of the examples of people that really benefited from our soaps, there's a young lady here. As you can see, the dates here, March 16th to March 26th. This is 10 days of using our soap. This young lady has eczema on her back, scarring, pitting, stuff like that. And as you can see, it's not 100% clear in 10 days, but it is dramatically different. And so although our products are not clinically tested and approved, the proof's in the pudding. When your skin gets better and you recognize it, then you're going to be very thankful for that. Here's another example. This picture didn't come out too well, but this is acne. It's extremely bad. This is an extreme case. This young lady was using our soap and our lotion exclusively for about 2 to 3 months before, 2 months before she looked like this. Dramatic differences in her face. She now doesn't embarrass to go out into public. She feels better about herself, her self-esteem, and everything like that. My niece, Sophie, it cleared her acne as well, and she said, Grandma, why don't you sell this stuff at the farmer's market or something? This stuff needs to be in the public eye. And so that's kind of helped us get to where we are today, because we started with a couple farmers markets, and by going to those farmers markets, we've had stores approach us, and we've never really done any marketing, so to speak, or really approached stores. But before I just recently started over the last couple of months, we were in almost 20 locations, something like that. So just from people coming and finding us through word of mouth and referral advertising. So right now we're in 2 farmers markets. We do the Springfield Farmers Market at FMO. They're at Farmers Park, which is an amazing farmers market. You guys should check it out. And this evening I'll be in Ozark as our second farmers market from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. on Wednesday nights. And then now I just added a couple more stores here over the last couple days. I think we're up to 25 wholesale accounts now, and I'm just going to keep turning doors and keep grinding away till I'm at hundreds and hundreds of stores, and so I can make a living. And so that's great. Let's see here. Yeah, this is a picture of the farmer's market. This is my stepmom and my father who are right here, and the starters and owner of the business. You can visit us online. We have the Windwood Farm dairygoats.com. It links back to the goat milk soap, and because the business started with the dairy goats, we get a lot of links back. But primarily www.windwoodfarmgoatmilksoap.com. Pretty straightforward. So we are now starting to actively market to stores. I'm starting to, like I said, go out, turn doors, try and get our products into several locations here locally. And so that's where we are now. Where do we want to be? In 2016, my goal, my personal goal, and I've shared it with my parents, is 100,000 bars of soap is what I want to sell in 2016. So right now we're selling about 1,500 to 2,000 bars of soap a month, which isn't lighting the world on fire by any means, but it is definitely growing, and it's a slow, gradual process, so it's going to do nothing but get better. And so I need to get to about 9,000 bars a month. And so it's pretty tangible, and with how great our soap is, I think it's a realistic goal for ourselves. Another thing that we want to do, this is a kind of an older picture, is when we first started with our soaps, is we know that as Windwood Farm, we need to brand ourselves as Windwood Farm, and so we don't want to change the name of our product or we want to change little, but we know that change is coming, and we know that we need to possibly better brand ourselves or get a better look or get what Windwood Farms is going to be to the public once we start marketing to these mass stores, and once we start trying to get into chains and stuff like that. We want to make sure that all of our products are exactly what we want them to be going forward. So also, we just want to continue helping people. That was the premise. That's what got us started into this, and that's what's going to continue our growth and helping is, I mean, I'm a guy, but when someone comes up to me and they say, my acne's gone, my little daughter's psoriasis are gone, I've cried a few times. It's brought me to tears because I'm so joyful and happy for the things that we can do for people, and that's what makes it all worth it in the end. So, you may ask what you guys can do to help us get in touch with these people. I know that there's a lot of people with connections. I don't know the owners of some of these major outlets, any retail stores. Right now, I'm just approaching boutiques, barbershops, convenience stores, head shops, stuff like that, where the soap will do well in so many different stores that it's really awesome, and you can really sell it to everyone. But what I want help with, or what we want help with, is to get in touch with retail outlets, stores, distributors, people like that. We're not really looking for investment capital or anything like that, as the business has grown organically by itself. But what we would like is to get our name out there. We also, if you are in branding, if you're in media, stuff like that, good with websites. I've been in sales since I was 16. I'm 32, so I've just been, flapping my gums, and I hadn't really focused on the computer a whole lot. And I don't want to throw my parents under the bus, but they're getting closer to retirement age, and website development is not their forte as well. So if anyone has help on what we can do to get a good brand out, we don't have a humongous, funding for websites and stuff like that. But also, we just really want you to buy a bar of the soap, use it yourself, and then proof's in the pudding. You'll tell all your friends and family, as Deborah and Chad's on board. I think we might even turn Devin, I don't know. You liking the soap, buddy? Yeah, so he's on board too. You get Devin on board, you got a great product, man. So, but essentially, this is how you can get in touch with us. I have my personal cell phone number and my stepmom's number up there. The website's once again. You can reach us at Facebook. Just look at Windwood Farm. You may have to look up Windwood Farm Soap or something like that. You'll find us. Twitter, we're at Windwood_farm. And at Instagram, simply at Goat Milk Soap. So these are all great ways to get in touch with us. And I have my display out there. I'll be selling soap after the meeting. So you guys don't have to come find me at the market tonight in Ozark. You're right outside. So make sure you pick up a bar. And that's about it.
That's great, guys. We'll open it up for Q&A. You can just raise your hand. I'll bring you a microphone. The first thing I'm curious about is, tell us what the Farmers Market of the Ozarks has done for you. Give us an idea of what, first of all, the barrier to entry was, and then how fast were you able to overcome that, and then what has it done for the rest of your business?
It was fairly, I don't want to say easy to get into the farmer's market, but they definitely inspect for quality, and they come out to the farm, make sure that you're making a good local product and stuff like that. The farmer's market of the Ozark has done tremendous things for us. If you guys have been out there, the new development that they just finished over the last year is amazing. They got the fully under the roof, so we don't have to worry about setting all these tents up, and the vendors are very happy. It's a very, very good ambiance. The crowd there is amazing. The people there are great. Honestly, I thought that the crowd was maybe going to be a little too stuffy or snooty going into it, but it's actually the opposite, and people are very humble and kind and nice, and that's my kind of crowd. So,
I got a question. How much does it cost to make a single bar of soap, and then how much do you sell that bar of soap for?
So you want to know what my cost to produce a bar of soap is?
Yes.
Okay. Right now, our cost to produce a bar of soap is right at about $1 a bar. We're at the farmer's market, as you can see out here, I'm selling it for about $4 a bar. To wholesalers, we're selling it to them depending on what level of how much soap they buy. Obviously, the more you get, the cheaper it's going to get for you. But about $2.50 a bar is a normal wholesale price for most of my stores, 32 to 100 bar order.
I have a question about, I'm Deb Wilson with Ozarks Esteem Coalition and bringing the Mini Maker Fair to the area, which this is a perfect example of something that would be showcased there. But what I'm interested in is the science behind what makes it better than typical soap, because I know there's a lot of science that goes into that, and just trying to get that to the general public about why science is such an important part of our lives.
And with soap, it's amazing because it's a chemistry, it's the process, and anyone can go onto Google and you can look up how to make goat milk soap and it will tell you. But the difference is the quality of the ingredients that we use and the levels of recipes. It's just like, a good analogy would be like Colonel Sanders, all the spicy stuff he sprinkles on his chicken. You go to KFC, the chicken's not going to taste the same as it does if you go to Popeyes. And so with us, our soap, when it's put up against our competition, Zoom bar, stuff like that. To me, I can see the difference in the bar. You can feel the difference in the bar. Of course, using it's going to be the end-all, be-all, but we know our soap is better. We know it's heavier. We know it's less expensive. So there's so many things. It's just more practical as to why we have the best soap.
Hello. A couple questions. Do you have a logo already in
Yes,
process?
absolutely, we do. Basically, it was hand-drawn by my stepmom, and it is a goat under a tree eating a leaf. I don't know if I don't think I had any on any of my slides. Didn't have the logo, but we do have a logo, and basically what we're hoping to do essentially is maybe accentuate it a little bit or try to keep it the same. We don't, that's one thing we would like to not change because it was something that started the business. But the soap will sell to babies, it'll sell to kids, it'll sell to ladies, it'll sell to guys, it'll sell to everyone. So in building our logo and creating our brand, we need something that will reach to everybody. We don't want it to look cartoony, we want it to look healthy, we want it to be for everyone. So it's a good challenge. It's going to be a very good challenge going forward for our brand.
One of the thoughts you might consider, and I didn't know that you have, facial bars, so maybe marketing it and having a cleansing wash of some sort, and having a facial bar and having, I don't know if you've ever thought about going liquid form, but you look at the market that Bath & Body Works has done, and I wonder if you could maybe replicate something in a liquid form and start replacing soap dispensers across the country.
I actually get that question more than you'd believe. A lot of people use liquid soap nowadays. Unfortunately, liquid soap has a lot of fillers and stuff that's really not good for your skin inside of it. And our main focus is the quality of our product and protecting your skin. So us making a liquid soap, probably not going to happen. Relabeling it for a facial bar or something like that, maybe something, something we might be a little bit more receptive into. But it's really a full body wash. I mean, I tell people to use it as shampoo. You can scrub your hair with this stuff. You can scrub your face, you can scrub your body. I scrub my dog with it. I mean, you name it. It's gotten rid of everything except for ugliness so far.
Okay.
There's surgery for that. I'm sure there's.
Hi, I'm Elisa, and oh no, I'm one of those.
Uh-oh.
Animal activist, vegan. Why would I want to buy your soap? How are the animals treated? How many goats does it take to make that much milk? Those kind of questions.
Well, our soap is made with freshly squeezed goats, and so really, there's no harm really in squeezing a tit to get a little bit of milk. Now, some of our products do have emu oil in it and stuff like that, so for being an animal activist, you may be a little, about that, but does our soap have emu oil in it? So our soap doesn't have emu oil in it, our body butters do and stuff like that. So that would probably, as an animal activist, I would maybe shy you away from the body butter and more towards the soap. But there's
Take it.
yeah, let's let Deb.
The goats are fed a non-GMO diet. They have free access to pasture. They're pampered and babied. There's no goats that are treated better than ours.
Absolutely.
Okay, there's your slogan.
There you
It's
go.
right there. No ghosts
Yeah.
treated better than ours. Here you go.
So other than the fat from the milk, what else do you add to make up the difference? Like I know milk doesn't have a lot of fat in it. What other oils
That's
do you
going to
use?
probably be another question for Deb. She's the producer of the soap and knows all the sciences behind it, so if I don't know the answer, I'm going to get the truth to you.
When you make soap, you add fats. Originally, soap was produced when they would render the fat from a carcass. The fat would fall into the ash at the side of the fire, and that they realized was soap. And so basically, lye is made from potassium hydroxide, and when you mix the potassium hydroxide with oils, it produces soap. The oils that you use have a direct effect on how good your soap is. And so consequently, we use some of the top quality oils. We use coconut oil, palm oil, shea butter, olive oil, help me,
A little bit of canola.
hemp seed oil, and avocado, as well as the goat's milk. And the goat's milk has alpha hydroxy acid. When you put alpha hydroxy acid on your skin, it releases the bonds of the dead skin that everyone has on their skin, and that releasing of those bonds helps you slough off the dead skin, which is an irritant and carries bacteria. And that's the main reason that goat's milk soap is superior for your skin.
Than regular lye soap or something like that, you'll see.
So I had a question about the competitive, what it looks like out there. And so goat milk soap, what does the competition look like? And then, do you guys own the local market, and what does it look like on a national or international level?
The competition is a little bit more fierce than you may think. When I start to talk about goat milk soap, it may be something you've never heard of before. But when we started looking into like Etsy accounts and stuff like that, there's hundreds of thousands of people out there that make goat milk soap. The local market isn't as saturated. There's a big company, as a lot of you have probably heard of Zoombar. Indigo Wild is the name of the company, and they're out of north of Kansas City, Illinois area. And so that's probably our largest competition. Of course, they're more on a national stage now, so we're growing to try and get into their ballpark, if you could say that, so to speak. But the national market is, I would probably, and I don't know this 100%, but I would guess is less than in the Midwest. In the Midwest, where you have the middle America, you got the farm towns and stuff like that, the goat milk soap's going to be a lot more prevalent because the goat milk's a lot easier to access.
So you said you could use this on babies. Is there like any kind of allergen issues with this?
No, all the stuff that we use is the fragrant oils and the essential oils are all hypoallergenic and paraffin-free, stuff like that. It's not tear-free, so I'd ask you to keep it away from the baby's eyes. It's not a tear-free soap. But other than that, just testimony after testimony of diaper rash being gone and little bits of eczema and stuff like that I've seen. I'll stand behind it and tell you to rub it all over your baby.
Can you purchase this on the website or online?
Absolutely. And recently, we're shifting our website more to the soap, and so we're transitioning, and we're working on our website. But there's links to where you can find the soap on there and buy it. If you're local, if you're here in Springfield, it's easier to go to the farmer's market or to one of our several stores that we now have, just because you don't have to pay shipping. Whereas if you bought online, you're going to have to pay shipping. So it might be a little bit more cost effective to go visit one of our partners. Yeah, if you go follow us on Facebook, we have a lot of that on there. And then as we continue to build our website, we're going to have a list of all the stores you can visit. Or, as we continue to grow, we'll probably have a locator thing where you say, where's Windwood Farm goat milk soap close to me? And so, just like all the other places, that should be pretty easy. Gary?
Have you offered
Oh, sorry.
Amazon?
On Amazon? No, I have looked at eBay and Amazon, and just like Etsy, the market is fierce as far as that goes. And our dollar to produce a bar and the $3 we end up having to pay for shipping to sell it for $4.50. We might be able to scrape a 25 cents off a bar, but for our time and efforts into it, it's probably not cost effective for what we're looking at.
So this is kind of a silly, simple question, but I know with a lot of good soaps, especially the bar soaps, they don't actually lather when you wash with them. Is that how your bar soap works? And do you have customers come back and say, well, it didn't work? Because that's unique.
Right.
We're used to having that big bubbly lather as being a representative.
Absolutely, and yes, our soap is very lathering. We have people that use it as a shaving soap and stuff like that. We have there's one of our oils that really helps with lathering quite a bit.
Does your farm diversify with other goat products? Like, do you sell raw goat milk or anything?
We don't, just because we're not FDA approved. When we were selling milk, we sometimes would sell it, and you'd sign a waiver saying this is not for human consumption, you're giving it to your dog, something along those lines, kind of a CYA a little bit, but other than that, no. Lately, because we foresee needing a lot more milk, we've been actually reaching out to some local farms as well, because we don't want to use frozen milk in our products, we only want to use fresh local milk, and we want to make sure that the goats are taken care of for the milk that we are using. And so we're starting to branch out and look at those as avenues. As we start to produce more soap, we may have to thin the herd because the goats take a lot of time too.
Hey Mike, thanks for sharing. And I like your soap so far. I think I have the oatmeal.
Got the oatmeal vibe.
Oatmeal something.
Oatmeal and honey.
Oatmeal honey,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about the difference of the wholesale and retail accounts and what you're looking for? We've had several people from the farmers market come through here and leave 1 million cups with a huge regional distribution contract that was actually too big, and they weren't able to fulfill that in the right way.
Absolutely.
So can you tell us a little bit about like who the perfect person would be to refer you to, and what like size wholesale or retail account would be best for where you guys are at right now?
Absolutely, that's a great question. I appreciate that. Of course, down the line, we're going to look into getting into these huge nationwide chains. But right now, for it being me, my father, and my stepmom producing it, we can't fill an order for 500,000 bars right now. So that's one thing as we want to stage our growth. So some prime examples of some stores I'd love to get into right now would be, Price Cutter, some Rapid Roberts. We could probably do Murphin's Markets, places like that that are kind of a smaller chain that would maybe only get 1,000, 2,000 bars of soap at a time to fill their stores. That would be perfect in my idea for my growth right now. That would help us get ready and look good for the big dogs.
How many goats do you have, and how many bars can you produce a month?
Right now, we have 3 goats, so not a lot. When you have goats producing a lot of milk, it is what it is. In our facility right now, we can produce 6,000 to 9,000 bars a month, no problems. And with our current facility, we're selling about 1,500 to 2,000. So I'd like to be selling about, 4,000 to 7,000 more bars a month. That would be perfect.
This was awesome. I love 1 Million Cups because of this. I never thought I would know so much about goat milk or the science behind milk and how it relates to a business mindset. So the reason we're all here and the reason you're here, what can we do as a community to help you?
Well, it first starts by stepping outside and buying a bar of soap. Of course, I'm going to plug you there, but that's where it starts. Every bar of soap helps us. Every single bar of soap that I sell makes me feel better. And it makes me feel better because I'm helping you, I'm helping my family, I'm helping myself. That's all great. But how you can help us is by, I don't know, if you know some guy that has a huge magazine or something and wants to give us some coverage, or I don't know, if you know somebody at Price Cutter, or if you have a connection, if you got a foot in the door, those warm leads are so easy for me to close because I've been in sales so long that I'm good at talking, obviously. But the soap, it needs to be used. Once you use it, then that's when people fall in love, and that's when they'll keep coming back. Our word of mouth and referral on this stuff is just amazing for all the products I've sold.
All right, always a good time. Thanks, Mike. Before we get to our next speaker, we have a couple of announcements. And as always, if you guys have some announcements or an event or a group or something like that that you think the entrepreneurial community of Springfield can benefit, we'd love to promote that and share the knowledge and information. So, Philip, it's the SBTDC. Small business technology, something. And Rihanna is here. There she is in the back. It was almost there. Development Center, right? There we go. And they have, so there's a bunch of entrepreneurs here. How many people are an entrepreneur? Of you who are holding your hands up, how many actively use a business plan? A couple. Okay, that'd be interesting. So for those of you who are not, if you want to learn how to build the ultimate business plan, on June 10th, they're having some awesome event. And they're also doing a how to start a business in Missouri. Brad and Sean's right here, the Real Estate Investors Group are having a meeting June 18th. You guys can look at all this information behind me. I'm not going to go through all of it, but Sean's right here. He's a cool guy, and they've been at 1MC since the very beginning. Moncho Marquez is over here, a really good friend of mine. He just put an awesome film of his called Magic Soccer on Kickstarter. If you guys were here last week, the Missouri Film Alliance presented really interesting things to produce a huge movie, huge budgets, lots of costs. Some interesting tax credit issues and solutions. But check him out. He's online. He's on Kickstarter. Also, Heath Rust, who is not here, he owns Twisted Pear. They are eligible for a grant through Missouri. And if you can go online and look at them and vote for Twisted Pear, that will give them a huge grant in order to continue their business. And if you guys know Heath, him and his wife are bringing Build It, Dream It, which is a makerspace to Springfield. It will be, there's been a couple attempts to bring a makerspace here in town. I'm sure Deb Wilson, who's here somewhere, could tell you more about that. It's really imperative for the community. If we could have a makerspace, it'd be great. It just costs a lot to bring all that heavy equipment and machinery to fruition. Also, Deb Wilson is having the Ozarks Mini Maker Fair Saturday, August 29th. We got some time on that, but I bet you Deb will awesomely plug that event every single week up until then. So thank you, Deb. And there is a Google AdWords class on June 29th. Is that to buy your own AdWords, or is that a product? Or? So how to buy your own AdWords, and that's Cassie. She can tell you more about that. And without further ado, so there's a lot of announcements there, and we'll try to get some of those online. If you guys have a better platform or a better vehicle for us to get announcements to use seamlessly without a ton of hours, we're definitely open to that. We're always open to suggestions as any ways that we can make this experience better for you all as audience or better for you all as presenters. We're definitely open to it. Check us out on all the regular social media platforms. Reach out to us and let us know. And our next presenter is going to be an interesting presentation. I think some of you guys are going to be jealous of his youthful energy and the fact that he's 19. It's kind of scary, right? But it's a good thing, and we need a lot more of those. So Riley De Leon is going to tell us a little bit more about himself, his path, and where he's going.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Am I on? Is this on? Cool. I don't have soap. I'm sorry. I know. I just have a book. I'm super amped to be here this morning because this is a totally different audience than I'm used to presenting to. And I'll paint you a little bit of a picture, because the last time I had the chance to speak publicly, it was up at Mizzou in Columbia, Missouri, and it was to a group of about 200 sorority girls. And it was in a room probably about this size, except every wall in the room was painted a very bright, obnoxious pink color. So this is only just a little bit different than that. This morning, for those of you who don't know me, I was born and raised here in Springfield, and now I'm a sophomore at Mizzou studying strategic communications at their journalism school. As a high school student here in Springfield, I started 2 nonprofit groups, registered 501c3, that have collectively raised nearly $100,000 for various organizations and charities, both domestically and internationally. I've also had the opportunity to work alongside a best-selling author as a personal assistant. And all of this is to say that in my life I've worn a variety of hats and I've pursued a variety of opportunities. As an entrepreneur, I have to say that I'm very involved, and I've been very involved from such a young age. So much so, actually, that as a senior in high school, my school made a rule, and they told me that I wasn't allowed to run for anything else or hold any other office. And that's now the precedent, so if there are any students from my old school in here, I'm sorry. But it was nearly 2 years ago, as a senior in high school, that I was going through a rough breakup with this girl that I was dating. And as a result of that relationship, I noticed that at varying times and in varying degrees, all of us are stifled by constraints that we think exist. And if you know me personally, you know that my book was a byproduct of that relationship that I was in. But my book is not a collection of, or a series of the journals that I kept over the course of my high school career. My book is a collection of, trust me, it's not a series of my journals. My book is a collection of stories from people my age, relatable, realistic stories from people who have overcome some kind of personal adversity in their lives. And now I have the great privilege of traveling around and speaking about that. But I never really thought of myself as a personal brand. And for obvious reasons, it made me really uncomfortable. And I didn't expect to become a personal brand as a result of writing a book. When I wrote my book, I was just super pissed off with the relationship that I was in with this girl. You know, I didn't think that it would be a year later for sale in 5 different countries and that I would be traveling around speaking about it. And so I want to talk about this idea of becoming a personal brand, because obviously there's a kind of stigma that is associated with that that makes all of us uncomfortable. But in my opinion, we all need to start thinking of ourselves as a personal brand. We are now living in a noisy social world with almost infinite opportunity that is only going to continue to grow, and I can't understand why anybody would not pursue that, which is exactly what I did. The reason that I am standing in front of you today is because I pursued opportunities that wouldn't otherwise pursue me. And all of you are here because you know better than anybody that the toughest part about climbing to the top of the ladder is getting past the crowd at the bottom. And this is how I built my personal brand. I now, like I said, I have the privilege of traveling around and speaking, but it was all by chance. Honestly, it really was. I am here before you today because I recognized that we live in a noisy social world. And the opportunities that I pursued, like I said, were opportunities that were not going to pursue me. And I started thinking of myself as a personal brand the moment that I stepped into my high school Spanish teacher's office and I had what was perceived to be a finished manuscript of my book. And within 5 minutes of exporting that book as a PDF, because of the noisy social world that we live in that's driven by social media and driven by this online internet factor, I was able to upload that manuscript as a PDF and have it for sale on an international online market within 5 minutes. Today, that book is for sale in 5 different countries. And that was the moment that I started thinking of myself as a personal brand. As a result, I established a story that I get the privilege of getting up in front of crowds every day and talking about. I identified a target audience. I developed an elevator pitch, where I get to travel around and say, I help X do Y so that they can accomplish or become Z. And a year ago, I wouldn't have been able to get up here and be able to tell you my story, or be able to tell you that that's what I do. And establishing a target audience, for example, whenever I published my book, because it was from the perspective of young adults, I realized that my target audience was millennials, age 18 to 25. And the moment that I realized that, I pursued every opportunity emailing Greek life chapter presidents at universities around the country, pitching them a presentation that I had to decide to value at $400 a presentation, but it was a presentation that I hadn't even written yet. So that is this idea of building a personal brand. When I started, I realized, or I learned in my writing, that as a young adult, as somebody who's a part of Generation Y, I didn't want to become part of the stereotype that millennials are now labeled. And in fact, more than that, and completely opposite, I wanted to become an anomaly. And I realized that if I wanted to become an anomaly, not only did I need to start acting like an anomaly, but I needed to start capitalizing on my strengths. And so this morning, I am here because I believe in my ability to provide and deliver, and what I'm looking for is the next play, and to take my personal brand to the next level. I'm here this morning, I was asked, what can the community do for me, and I'm gonna deliver, because there's a whole list of stuff. I built this from nothing, and the difference that I always talk about between myself, my friends tell me all the time, my message and what I do is not profound. There's nothing about my message that's profound. There's probably thousands of other authors and speakers out there that have the exact same message that I do and probably deliver it a hell of a lot better. The difference is relatability. I'm not a psychologist. I don't have a PhD. And my book is not chicken soup for the soul. But when it comes to relatability, I am 19. I am a college student. I've been in relationships. I have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. And all of those things as a personal brand have allowed me to audit who I actually am. And that has all gone toward building my brand. So I'm here this morning asking for endorsements, testimonials, feedback. I brought copies of my book for sale if anybody's interested in reading it and checking out more about my work. I'm looking for honest reviews online through outlets like Amazon and things like that. If you guys know any wholesalers or schools that are interested in purchasing my book and getting it out there to the masses, those are the kinds of things that I'm looking for. Speaking leads, new opportunities to get out there and deliver my message, connection with more accomplished authors, connecting with that next level. I'm in the summer, I'm in Springfield this summer rather than in Columbia, and I'm taking the summer to write my next book and prepare for a speaking tour that I'm doing next semester as a result of those emails that I sent out to some of the chapter presidents at different universities. So right now what I'm looking for are related business services and a publisher for my next book, because that is the next level. And I emailed chapter presidents trying to get these speaking gigs without any idea of what I was doing, but knowing that I was going to do it. Representation. I'm going to be traveling to these events and I need help. I'm 19 years old. I need assistance with that. I'm looking for legal services, any kind of advice that I can get. I'm looking for media coverage of my work, client referrals. I'm looking to consult young adults. I'm looking to consult anybody who is, on the flip side of that, looking at building a personal brand for themselves, because I study at the #1 journalism school in the country, and I can tell you that that's the future of business.
Bravo. Riley, elaborate on your speaking tour. Where are you headed? How are you broadcasting the message, and what do you hope that builds for you in the future?
Well, next semester, I am going to be traveling, and I'm speaking at a couple sororities and fraternities, different student organizations at Mizzou, speaking at Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, SMU, Loyola in Chicago, University of Tulsa, Rockhurst, UMKC, all of the Missouri schools. And I don't just want to speak one time when I'm there. If I'm going to be in Kansas City, I'll speak 3 times. And I also don't want to just reach the 100, 400 people that are in the student organization that I'm speaking to. I want to reach the 10,000, 40,000 people that are at the university in which that organization resides. So.
You said that you wrote this during Spanish, when you were in Spanish, right?
Yeah, it's actually really funny. I never took Spanish. I was just really close with the teacher at my high school who kind of served as a mentor to me. And there were a lot of late hours in the day spent in her office where we analyzed every word of that book, every sentence, every phrase. And so she was just really a mentor to me, and I spent probably 90% of my senior year in high school in her office working on my book.
Okay, so you wrote this when you were a senior?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, cool, okay. That was my only question.
Yeah.
You talked a lot about you and your book and this is me back here.
Oh, thank you.
But other than just mentioning that the book was a collection of stories about other individuals who overcame hardship, I didn't hear anything else about the message of the book or the other people. So I was wondering if the tour is about the book and those people and their stories.
It's a little bit about the book. Like I said, one of the things that I noticed when I was in this relationship my senior year was that my generation has become less bold, less confident, increasingly insecure, more apprehensive, and you can chalk that up to being a result of whatever you want, but the fact is that's what's happening. If they're going to be the future generation, then we have to overcome that. So yes, my book is a collection of stories written from the perspective of young adults and the hardships that they've encountered and how they've overcome that, but the goal was for it to be relatable so that once they overcome that hardship, they can go forward in accomplishing their goals. And when I travel around and speak next semester, those are the workshops that I'm leading. I'm sitting down one-on-one, I'm learning these young adult stories, and I'm sitting down to figure out what can I do, what kind of people can I put you in connection with to accomplish your goals. Does that answer your question? I don't know. A little bit?
I got a question. You said your target audience kind of was the 18 to 25 age group, and you kind of answered what I was going to ask you just with your last statement. But if you had to nail it down exactly what your presentation is about entrepreneurship, is it about motivational, is it inspirational? like what is, like if you nail down, if I were someone who wanted to hire you to speak,
Right.
what is it that you're wanting to convey?
Well, I've done a number of presentations already, but the speaking tour that I'm doing next semester, it's called Millennials Improving Morale. And the purpose of the presentation is to challenge young adults to measure them beyond their social media footprint, because I believe, I'm standing up here talking about being a personal brand and how social media is a driving factor behind that. But between Gen X and Gen Y, there's a fine line between my generation, who wakes up in the morning with their phone in their hand and using social media as a tool to build your brand and your business and things like that. So when I'm talking to young adults, I'm talking more about the idea that we need to not let social media cripple our lives by using the amount of likes we get on Instagram as a drug, or the amount of retweets that we get on Twitter. You know, we need to not let that cripple us. And so that is really what I do, is I sit down with young adults and kind of help them reevaluate their priorities and align their goals so that they're not focused on, you know, cultivating this idea of celebrity in their own mind.
My question.
Yeah.
I am wondering if you're considering speaking within like courses at the university. So I teach here at MSU, and I have some classes that have very large numbers, and if that would be something you would consider in terms of coming to speak to promote, you know, professionalism and future. And the second piece of that is also thinking about high school programs. You know, if you're wanting to get in contact and maybe talking to some high school sophomores or something like that to get them on the right track, and to warn them of the very public nature of all of that social media and maybe how they're using it.
Absolutely. Well, last semester, as I was reaching out to people to try to get booked for some speaking gigs, I actually had the opportunity to speak at 3 high schools in Columbia. And so I'm really looking for any opportunities that are open. I'm very good about catering the services that I provide, whether it's a speech or whether it's consultation, to whatever the need is. Because one of the things that I've learned in developing a personal brand is not only do I have to have a message, but the personal brand in and of itself is a message. And those are 2 different audiences that fortunately I'm able to take advantage of. So I hope that answers your question.
Hi. First, I have to compliment you on just how well-spoken you are. You're probably more mature than most 25-year-olds I've met. So great job and great presentation.
Thank you.
My question is, you mentioned this relatability on social media. What did that look like? I'm not sure when you opened up your Facebook account.
Yeah.
Did you have to go back through and maybe fine-tune and delete certain photos and posts and image that was maybe not the brand that you wanted to be?
Sure.
And any advice, I guess, to those, because we are so social, and I think we put sometimes a fake social, I guess, image forward that's not really who we truly are. And so I'm just curious on your balance of staying relatable to that.
Well, and using social media, I'm going to relate back to the personal brand on this, because I told you guys that when I wrote my book, I was super uncomfortable with thinking about myself as a personal brand. And inevitably, when I published my book, I was kind of thrown into that. But as things kind of started taking off, I started to reevaluate and think about the experiences that I was having, the people that I was meeting, the connections I had, the thoughts I was thinking, the things that I was doing. And I started to just naturally think about it more in context of a personal brand. And you know, I've been fostering connections from such an early age, whether it was through internships or jobs or volunteer work that I've done. And so for me personally, that's something that's been built naturally. And social media, you know, I'm part of a generation that social media has always been a part of. And so I'm fortunate in that sense. But I like to think that I have been building this personal brand from such an early age, and I didn't even know it. So I think that answers your question and what you're asking for. I've never had to go back and kind of, you know, I've audited who I am as a person, you know, as I publish my book and as I've gone out to speak. But the one thing that I told myself when I wrote my book was that everything I was going to do from this point forward was going to be authentic and genuine, and I wanted to be an adequate representation of that.
So Riley, I have a question for you. This idea of a personal brand, and you'd mentioned this earlier, it is kind of weird, or kind of like creepy to me, because I think of branding and I think of products or businesses or companies and a team of people coming up with how that's going to be represented. And so are you implying that we all have a personal brand, whether we like it or not? And
absolutely.
Like some products, just some don't get heard, or other products you don't think through how you're represented? Or can you elaborate on that more? Because that's intriguing.
I love this question because, like I said, the majority of places I speak are sororities and student organizations. Sororities are so much fun. But one of the things that I talk about when I visit sororities is that these girls don't realize with their Instagram, their Twitter, their Snapchat, all of these different things, that they are personal brands. I have worked for a best-selling author who I helped kind of catapult his brand and take his brand to the next level. And I built him, let's take this for an example. I helped him build an Instagram from the ground up. And slowly he started getting 12 likes here on pictures, 20 likes. These girls that are at sororities at Mizzou, they have 300, 500 people seeing their pictures a day, and it's because they went through rush at the beginning of their freshman year. So whether they like to believe it or not, they're a brand. Because when you're reaching that many people, you're a brand. You have the ability to put a message out there.
I don't have a mic, but I've been aware of your personal brand, for several years.
Mm-hmm.
And you're about to go into the journalism school.
Right.
Where the story is the spotlight, not the storyteller.
Absolutely.
How are you going to balance the demands of storytelling versus the demands of a personal brand, not let a personal brand overwhelm the story?
Well, that's a very good point. When I started to foster my personal brand, I did it on the basis that my book is a collection of stories. And when I travel around and speak, the one message that I really try to emphasize is that stories drive the human experience. I'm so grateful to be here today and have this opportunity, because when we did the run-through on Monday, I got up here and I told my story, and I told, I'm a sophomore at Mizzou, and I went to Greenwood Laboratory School in Springfield, and I did this and I did that, and I drive a Jeep Wrangler, and this is who I am, and check out my Instagram account because I'm so cool and stuff like this. And that is my story, and that's what I hold true to, and that's a part of my personal brand. But that story has played into the fiber of who I am. And so I'm a firm believer that stories drive the human experience, and that's evident in my book, and it'll certainly be evident in my next one and as I continue to travel around and speak.
But in journalism school, they're going to teach you how to tell other people's stories.
Right.
How do you keep your personal brand from overshadowing the story you're supposed to tell about others?
Well, my personal brand is a separate entity from, my tangible work, my books, or my book, and then the book that I'm writing right now. My first book, the way that it was produced was I contacted a select few people that I knew who I felt had an amazing story. And I would spend weeks at a time getting to know them on a totally different level than I had before, whether it was via email, over the phone, over coffee, lunch, you name it. And I did. I got to know these people on a whole different level, and my book is the interpretation of those stories. And that's what I started doing, and that's what I hope to hold true to as I continue going through the journalism school and as I continue writing books, because that's where I came from. So.
Hi. Excuse me. I have a question, but before I want to tell you something about. Oh my God. I'm an author myself, and I publish 5 novels. My books are written in Spanish, and I publish in Latin America. So I've been an author for a long time. I have a book in Amazon, my first novel. Now, do you plan to write another book, another novel?
I'm currently working on my next book right now, yes. And I'll go ahead and elaborate a little bit, I guess. I haven't had the opportunity to speak about this yet, but my next book focuses on the singular story that we all have. And I have met somebody recently who has an amazing story to tell, And the preface to this book is the importance of the singular story and how it drives the human experience. But the book itself is a catalog of her story. So,
you know, one of the things that happened to us is that we publish a book, and it goes, you know, very famous. You sell all kind of copies, and then 3 years later, nobody remembers you, and people ask you, "What do you do?" And they say, "Oh, I'm a writer," or whatever. So that's why you have to keep writing all the time. I'm about to publish my new novel. I'm just holding a little bit to do the best for it.
Right.
But you know, you are not a writer or an author when you don't have a book on the market.
Right.
You know, so that's why you have to keep writing all the time.
Yeah,
You're doing very good. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank
I
you so
admire you
much.
very much. And
Thank
wow,
you.
It's amazing what you've been doing.
Thank you.
You are really amazing.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you so
welcome.
much. I appreciate that.
So I want to ask the one question everybody's thinking. What's the ex-girlfriend doing now? And is she really jealous of your success?
Well, so the ex-girlfriend goes to Mizzou, and I'm actually speaking to her sorority next semester. So, should be fun.
Riley, I got a question for you, and I wasn't thinking about your ex-girlfriend. And congrats on pinning down sororities as a market niche
Thank
at
you.
19 years old. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So, kudos, man. But my question is, all right, so you're 19 years old now. You're marketing to sorority girls.
Right.
Awesome. In a couple years, you'll get really tired of that, and they'll get really tired
Right.
of you, right? So what's next for the brand? What's next for you in 5 years? What would you like to see happen? What would you like to see this personal brand, as we've been calling it today, represent, the products, the business behind all that? What do you see longer term, and what would you like to morph it into?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question, because right now, I have recognized that I've built a personal brand at a young age, and I don't want to watch it just kind of fall off the cliff after I get out of college. And, you know, in 3 years when I'm out of college, I'm not really going to be interested in that anymore. And so the grand plan right now is to build an audience through my personal brand. And by the time I'm out of college, because I go through the journalism school, I believe that, you know, BuzzFeed type platforms and online news platforms are the future of journalism. And so the grand plan right now is to be building an audience through my personal brand. And then by the time I'm out of college, live in New York, where I manage my own brand that helps other brands build equity, whether they're a business or a personal brand. And so, you know, I'm always looking at what the next play is going to be, and I have no doubt that I will get there.
Great job, Riley.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. As everybody has seen today, we have a really diverse group of presenters. We don't necessarily do that on purpose, but it just sort of happens that way. So if you've got someone that you think would be interested in presenting, please have them contact one of the organizers. Debbie's been so good to put our names up here on the board. So please contact us. We're always looking for people to present, and it's really not about us, it's really about you. You guys come here to try to help somebody, to try to hear something maybe that's inspirational, and hopefully those presenters also get something out of this. Hopefully Mike's got something out of this, hopefully Riley has too. So again, we like the diversity, but it's really reliant on you guys that come to the event to go out there and help us find these people that would be helped in our program. We all get a really big charge out of this, but it's not really about us. It's about you. You guys come to see something, and we want to make sure we're providing that. If you are not getting our emails, please sign up out here. We have a new website, and we don't necessarily want to share all of our dirty laundry, but sometimes Kaufman sometimes changes things, and we have to adapt. You know, that's life. You have to do that sometimes. So make sure you sign up out here if you're not getting our emails, and we'll make sure that you get notified of our program. So, again, thanks for coming. We'll see you next week.